The moment you react, you surrender your power. Emotion is a leak in your authority. Over-explaining is a confession of weakness. Elite strategists don't fight loud battles of ego. They deploy tactical detachment, the lethal art of strategic silence and emotional withdrawal. In this masterclass, you will learn how to turn indifference into your greatest psychological weapon, collapse emotional games, and command absolute respect without saying a single word. The moment you react emotionally to a provocation, critique, or power play, you surrender structural control of the interaction. Human psychology dictates that emotional reactivity signals weakness, insecurity, and an inability to regulate your internal state. When someone goads you and you respond with anger, defense, or over-explanation, you validate their attempt to disturb your frame. You hand them the remote control to your emotions. Strategic minds understand that reactivity is a trap designed to drag you into an arena where you operate on lower impulses. By remaining unbothered, indifferent, and completely still, you refuse to take the bait. You demonstrate that their words carry zero weight, instantly flipping the power dynamic back in your favor. True strength is not shown through explosive retaliation, but through the impenetrable fortress of emotional composure. Silence is one of the most underutilized tactical tools in human communication. The average human brain experiences severe cognitive discomfort when faced with awkward, unfilled silence. When you deploy strategic silence, especially after someone makes a bold statement, an offer, or an aggressive demand, their anxiety spikes. Their brain interprets your silence as disapproval or hidden knowledge, forcing them to fill the void. In an effort to break the tension, they will routinely begin over-explaining, backtracking, compromising, or inadvertently revealing their true motives and insecurities. Weaponized silence requires high discipline. You must resist the impulse to speak first. By simply holding steady eye contact and saying nothing, you transfer the entire burden of psychological pressure back onto the opponent, compelling them to dismantle their own position without you having to fire a single verbal shot. Human beings value what is scarce and take for granted what is abundant. If you constantly dish out verbal validation, enthusiastic nods, and eager agreement, your approval becomes worthless. The validation vacuum operates on the principle of strategic scarcity. By maintaining a neutral, detached demeanor, you create an environment where your approval is hard-won and rarely granted. When people sense that you are emotionally independent and do not easily validate others, their subconscious desire to earn your respect increases exponentially. They begin trying harder to impress you, seeking subtle nods of agreement, and calibrating their behavior to align with your expectations. You do not need to demand respect by withholding cheap, superficial validation and preserving your praise for truly earned moments. You establish an implicit hierarchy where your opinion carries immense gravitational weight. Aggression, gaslighting, and emotional baiting rely entirely on reaction to thrive. Fire cannot burn without oxygen, and conflict cannot escalate without emotional resistance. Stoic non-engagement is the strategic practice of responding to verbal attacks or psychological games with cold, unbothered indifference. When an opponent attempts to provoke you, a dramatic emotional response gives them psychological satisfaction and confirms that their attack landed. Conversely, reacting with a calm, flat tone, a slow blink, or a neutral is that so completely starves the attack of its fuel. You treat their hostility not as an emergency, but as irrelevant background noise. This cold indifference thoroughly disarms the aggressor, causing their theatrical display to collapse under its own awkward weight, while positioning you as the unflappable anchor of the environment. The fundamental law of social dynamics is governed by investment asymmetry. The person who cares less holds the leverage. In every relationship, negotiation, or debate, the party who invests more emotional energy, effort, and concern inherently yields power to the party who remains detached. When you notice someone taking you for granted, attempting to push boundaries, or playing subtle manipulation games, the most lethal countermove is a deliberate, silent pullback of your energy. By stepping back emotionally, reducing your responsiveness, shortening your replies, and ceasing to initiate effort, you instantly create a sudden void. The target's ego senses the shift from abundance to scarcity. In order to restore the lost equilibrium and regain your attention, they are forced to step into the void you left behind. They begin pursuing, checking in, overanalyzing their behavior, and investing heavily to bridge the gap. Investment asymmetry turns the tables effortlessly. Instead of you chasing their alignment, your tactical detachment compels them to work tirelessly to earn back your presence and validation. True authority is never loud, aggressive, or performative. Amateur strategists mistake overt aggression, loud tone, and dominating gestures for real power, failing to recognize that loud behavior is merely a mask for underlying anxiety and desperation. Elite influence operates on the principle of invisible dominance, an unshakable, quiet presence that commands absolute authority without ever raising a voice or displaying overt hostility. This state is achieved by combining total emotional detachment with deliberate physical and vocal calibration. You speak slowly with a steady cadence and a low pitch, leaving natural pauses that project complete calm. Your eye contact remains grounded, your posture composed, and your facial expressions steady and controlled. You move with purpose, entirely unhurried by the chaotic energy of those around you. When conflict arises, while others lose their composure and shout, your absolute calm acts as an intimidating wall of stoic resolve. The contrast makes their outbursts look foolish and uncontrolled while elevating your status as the obvious leader in the room. Invisible dominance leaves zero residue of petty ego or cheap manipulation. People will follow your direction, yield to your presence, and respect your boundaries without ever feeling forced, simply because your calm composure signals that you possess absolute control over yourself and the environment around you.